every last dime. Meanwhile, at the Federal Reserve, 12 faceless bureaucrats decide your economic future. In secret, the Federal Reserve, 12 faceless bureaucrats decide your economic future. In secret. How much inflation should there be next year? What should interest rates be? How much of your savings should be transferred to politicians and their favored big banks? The Supreme Court, where individual rights are supposed to be protected, think it's fine if government invades our financial privacy, spies on us in our bedrooms, regulates church schools, and restricts our free speech. Meanwhile, at the Congress, everything is up for grabs. Everything is up for grabs, as long as it's yours.
Yes, everything's up for grabs as long as it's yours. They'll take your house in foreclosure. They'll take your kids away from you. They will take anything and everything and sell them. And they literally, in America, are stealing children through CPS and auctioning them off. They're being sold. People get paid bonuses to adopt children with federal tax money, created out of thin air. This is, we're watching in real time, the destruction of America. In real time. And they keep telling, oh, it's for the best. Oh, this is for the good of the children. It's not. What's for the good of the children is to have a functioning family. No family's perfect. The real problem in America is that treason is celebrated as good. We had treason with President LBJ when he ordered the fighter jets not to defend our own ship, the USS Liberty, attacked June 8th, 1967. And that whole story has been hidden from America for over 40 years. 200 American sailors shot, dead, and wounded. Over 200. And LBJ said, I want that goddamn ship at the bottom of the sea. We're not going to embarrass our ally, Israel. I'm not sure Israel was really the root problem. I think some crazy people in the military, pushed by the bank gangsters. You know who the bank gangsters are now. Names like Rothschild, Warburg, Schiff, J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, Chase, Mellon. All of these people have tremendous control. You have nothing to do except to pick between the puppets they give you. And right now they want to give you a puppet called Barack Obama for 4 more years. Or you can have another choice of a different puppet called Mitt Romney for 4 years. But both of those puppets are dangling on the strings pulled by the bank gangsters. That's what the show is about tonight. Because you won't know how to take back America. You won't understand until you realize how treason has been perpetrated in this United States of America for 100 years. And our school books have stopped talking about the money trust. You know, when I was in college my freshman year on Bascom Hill, I had to go to this Econ 101. They wanted me to study economics. And I studied, and there's this M1, and there's an M2, and there's M3, and there's a government pumping in. All that was crap. And now I realize it was crap. It took me 30, 40 years to unlearn the garbage they put in my head. There's no such thing as a business cycle that recurs so often. That's all crap. What there is the bank gangsters that extend credit and then they pull it back in and buy back all your failed businesses for pennies on the dollar, forcing people to lose homes, forcing people to lose their businesses. Right now, they're retracting the money. However, there was one congressman. His name was Ron Paul. He's running for president, and he's not the bank gangster's choice. He's the guy they're scared to death of. He was in the Air Force. Neither Mitt Romney or Barack Obama ever served a day in the military. Here's Ron Paul as a young doctor. Here he is, as a young doctor, right here. A young doctor in the Air Force. Ron Paul had managed to get himself as chairman of a committee. Not only was he one of the very first people to endorse Ronald Reagan when Reagan wasn't popular, not only did he call the New York bank gangster attorneys, that's the New York Federal Reserve Bank, he called them to account for their money that they create with their private money at interest. This is one of my favorite pictures of Ron Paul because as you see the man, and if you look, if you could zoom in, which we can't, but if you were to zoom in really close, you would see that all these pictures of Ron Paul are made up of Ron Paul's supporters' photographs. He is the people's candidate. About 100 years ago or more, there was a guy named Jennings, I think his name was Brian Jennings. He made the most famous speech, probably the most famous speech that will ever be remembered. It was called the Cross of Gold. You're not going to crucify on a cross of gold. What's been going on, and I think most people aren't going to get it, and I'm soon going to go to tape, and you're not going to see my face for a long time here, but I hope you pay very close attention, because Bill Still, who's a documentary filmmaker, gave me permission today to show you his 1996 production on who the bank gangsters are. They're really the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Warburgs, the Schiffs, and all their cousins and interrelated families. These bank gangsters don't just go back to the founding of Bank of England, which really wasn't the Bank of England. It was really the Bank of Rothschild with the title Bank of England. But the directors of it, nobody from England was in control of the Bank of England. It was private money. The same with the Federal Reserve. They managed, after the meeting on Jekyll Island, they wrote the banking bill on Jekyll Island, then they had a U.S. Senator from Rhode Island go in and introduce it and push it through. It was all written by the bank creeps, the banker creeps, which I like to call bank gangsters, because they're literally robbing you and me. They robbed my father. They robbed my grandfather. And they're quite happy about it. This is their business, to create money that has to be paid back with interest, ignoring the biblical admonition that when you lend money, do not demand interest. Only ask for the face value back. These are anti-Christian bankers. And even the Jewish scriptures, you go way back to the Old Testament, it says, do not demand interest. So what kind of people are these? These worship money. Regardless of what religion they say they are, their real religion is the worship of power and control of money. These are the bank gangsters. And the current reigning king of the bank gangsters, to even the Queen of England, has to knock on the City of London's door to enter his banking realm. Once a year, she goes there and pays homage to him. Believe it or not, this isn't widely publicized. The Queen of England pays homage to Lord Evelyn Rothschild, who under nobility is underneath the Queen, but in reality, he's over her because he controls the Bank of England. He can crash the English economy anytime he feels like it. But what most of you Americans don't know is he can crash the American economy, and in fact, they are. This depression was manufactured, and that's why this guy, Ron Paul, is so darn important. He's running against Mitt Romney. The nomination hasn't been made and won't be made till the end of August. He's got over 200, probably over 500, maybe 700 solid delegates that won't vote for Mitt Romney under any circumstances. Now, I know Rand Paul just recently came out and said, I endorse Mitt Romney. He's supposedly going to get the nomination, and I endorse whoever gets the nomination. Well, remember, Rand Paul said he would endorse whoever got the nomination. Ron Paul didn't say that. And the Ron Paul supporters understand the most important thing to get our freedom back is to get rid of the Federal Reserve and go back to what Abraham Lincoln got assassinated for, called greenbacks. Interest-free money, not printed by the what the books when I was in high school called the Eastern Banking Trust. That's a real nice name, Banking Trust. What I would call them is bank gangsters. That's not so polite. Doesn't sound nice to call people a gangster. Well, that's what they really are. And tonight I hope you're going to see that. And then we're going to show you how many Americans suffered and what they suffered at 9/11. Now, some of you think 9/11 was all about terrorism. Oh boy, we're going to get those terrorists. And we got, you know, some of you say, my grandson or my son is over in Iraq or Afghanistan or Libya or somewhere and he's fighting the No, that's like the Vietnam War. It's all propaganda. And my heart bleeds, because I'm a Vietnam veteran. I bleed for all the guys that have died and come back with missing arms, legs, and feet. Because they aren't fighting for America. They're fighting for the bank gangsters to get rich by creating huge debts that have to be paid back with interest. My solution is, we say, so long, Federal Reserve, all your loans are now declared paid. Null and void. House loan, car loan, student loan, all of them. Everything based on the Federal Reserve, null and void, loans paid off, whatever you own, you now own free and clear. If you own a 1,000-acre ranch and you owe $2 million to the Federal Reserve subsidiary bank, whether it's J.P. Morgan or Mellon Trust or Bank of America, whatever, null and void, you own the land free and clear. Now that would be a real revolution. And I think that's possible with Ron Paul. He never said it exactly that way, but I think it's possible. Ron Paul understands we must kill the Rothschild central bank. And some of you are probably going, oh, what are you talking about, Rothschild central bank? Oh, Mr. Wagener, you lost me. Well, it's called the Federal Reserve Bank. It's not federal, it's private. Owned by the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, or their subsidiary corporations, and a bunch of people that have private. And they keep two sets of books. One set they show the Congress. The other set is the real book, how much profit they're making. And they're creating money out of thin air while you're working your butt off for it. And many of you are losing your homes, your jobs. This goes back to 1694 when the Bank of England was set up this way, and every big major bank after that. Now the United States had the first central bank, and we kicked them out and passed the hidden, some people call it the lost original 13th Amendment in 1812, which has got nothing to do with the anti-slavery amendment of 1865, actually passed by Congress as an amendment after Lincoln had been assassinated, but he made the proclamation. Then it wasn't really law, had to make it legal to free the slaves, so they had an amendment. That should have been called the 14th Amendment, but they called it the 13th Amendment to try to make the original 13th Amendment disappear. Now, a guy named Gus and myself are researching this, and we have discovered, and we have the actual original book ordered published by the Congress of 1815. This is the official publisher of all the statutes at large and the Constitution, all the amendments. And in that book, which I'm going to show you one of these days soon, it includes the original 13th Amendment, which says anybody who claims a title or an honor from any foreign power, prince or principality, loses their citizenship and are no longer a U.S. citizen. That means if you're a member of the British Accreditation Registry, also known as BAR, if you remember the California Bar, the Florida Bar, New York Bar, any state bar, you have an allegiance to the British Accreditation Registry, which owes its fealty to the Queen of England. Therefore, you lose your citizenship. Now, a lot of lawyers are going to say, oh, that doesn't matter anymore, Mr. Wagener. Oh, yes, it does. That original 13th Amendment has never been repealed and was republished in many state documents right up to 1866.